in the sanctuary with longtime friend, ex-former teammate, my boy.
Been a while.
Jacob Reiter. What's
Yes,
up, Scoob?
Oh, nothing much, man. Just living and
Yeah.
doing my thing.
Do they still call you Scoob?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everybody.
Dude, where does that come from? So if you don't know Jacob, whenever I first was introduced to you, it was Scoob.
Yeah.
I was not introduced to you as Jacob. I didn't even know Jacob was your fucking name until like probably 2 months into the friendship.
Yeah.
I was like, who do they keep calling Jacob? And it was you.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Parents.
Your parents.
Growing up, man, I always I was big into Scooby Doo. Obviously, everything I had, everything I wanted, Scooby Doo, shirts,
Right.
Scooby Doo, everything.
Yeah.
And I guess just one day, my mom decided that she was gonna start calling me Scoob, and
Scoob. It stuck.
it's stuck forever.
Because I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if they still call him that. And I was like, well, surely they do. Because whenever I met you and they were calling you that, you were like 18, 19.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it stuck for that long. I was like, so
Yeah.
it probably didn't just go away like in the
Yeah.
last 2 years. Dude, how long? It's been what? Like, probably
2018.
since we last saw each other?
Yeah.
2018? Yeah, probably about the year after. So we played a year of college baseball together there in Fairfield. What a time that was.
Yeah. That was a wild time.
Man, we weren't that great.
Yeah.
We weren't very good. It was the first team of that school.
Yeah.
We were the first ever baseball team for Frontier. So there was a lot of learning curves, a lot of ups and downs, dude. It going back to that. What did you get into? Because I mean, after that first year that we went to Fairfield, and then everyone kind of separated, and I didn't really see anybody after that. Did you go back for years?
Second year, yeah.
Did you?
So I played that fall. I ended up getting hurt in the gym.
Doing what?
Squatting. Blew my right knee out.
Completely?
Not completely. I tore my LCL
Yeah.
and my meniscus.
Is your LCL on the inside?
Yes, I believe
Is that
so.
right? One's on one's on the inside and one's on the outside or something? Dang.
So anyways, did that, and then luckily it was more or less a partial tear.
All right.
So it healed on its own.
Yeah.
Now the meniscus, it tore completely.
Damn.
And then flipped up underneath itself. So when they went in and did surgery,
it all balled up.
yeah, instead of being able to sew it back together, they had to trim it off. So I was out. So I guess I would have been halfway through fall season. And then spring rolled around. Well, I guess not quite spring. Right after fall season, they went through and did cuts. Well, I didn't get to play, half the fall season. So, which they always say when one door closes, another opens.
Yeah.
So I looked at it that way and finished out my year at Frontier.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Had a couple offers to play baseball elsewhere, but at that point, dude, I was done with it.
Not interested.
No.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how I was, especially after that first year. It just like that 1 year at Fairfield, dude, left a pretty sour taste in my mouth for a lot of different reasons. And like, I loved the game. I played it my whole life, and that 1 year like made me hate baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I really hated the sport. I didn't want to play. I wanted nothing to do with it. And I was like, damn, dude, this is not how I should be feeling.
Yeah.
Luckily, though, I got to play one more. I played that summer for Carmi for Legion Ball.
Right on.
Had a great summer. Me and Stanton, there's a couple of us. We were nice.
Yeah.
We were solid. There was like six or seven of our starting nine. For a Legion Ball team out of Carmi, we had 7 of our starters were playing college baseball.
Who was that? Man, I don't remember his name. Little short guy. I think he went
Easton?
to Easton. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Easton Stewart. Yeah, he was our shortstop. I played second. Easton was at first, Stanton was at first. I was at second. Easton at short, and then Oakley Dial was at third. And all 4 of us at the time in the infield, we were all 4 playing college ball. And then our center fielder was Andy. Yeah. Dude, all 8 of us of starting positions might have been college baseball players.
Really?
Yeah, we were pretty fucking salty for a Carmi Legion Ball team.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, we won districts, ended up going to, I don't remember how they do it. You go to, like districts, and and whatever's like after districts, the regional,
yeah,
something like that. We won that, and then lost the next one in like a walk-off run. I broke my foot that summer, and didn't get to play, which would have been my last game ever if I'd have played and we had lost. It was my last game ever, and I had to sit down and watch because had been in the gym. That was like a Tuesday. That Saturday we were hitting BP in Carmine. Well, before BP, I was like, I'm gonna go up to the gym, hit some legs. I'm pulling a 45-pound plate off the rack to put it on the bar on the squat rack. Whenever I pulled it off, it was 5 in the morning, dude. It slipped out of my hands.
Oh,
and you would think like whenever you drop a plate like that, it would like tilt or turn, or like it would fall, maybe like hit my leg, my shin. That motherfucker, dude, it fell straight down off that thing, right across my foot, and just shattered the top half of my foot.
Really?
Yeah, I've wrapped it up really tight, and I tried to play like the last 2 innings just because it was like looking like the last game.
Yep.
And Pat got me one more at bat, and it hurt. It was my back foot, so I was trying to swing. I think my legs never moved. I was just like this, just hacking, like just hating. I couldn't believe it. That's how it had to end.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there was just a lot of favoritism through. Well, they had a lot riding in Fairfield.
Oh yeah.
Bringing in guys from so far away, and no hate to any of those guys. It was just they had a lot riding every year, bringing in guys from Puerto Rico and Canada and all these places really far away.
For sure.
BC, Canada, guys that are 25 hours from home. It's hard to bring guys that far away and not get them on the field.
Right.
And I kind of felt that a little bit. And like I said, it's neither here nor there now.
Yeah.
But
and some of those guys, they travel that far, and then they're there for half a year, get cut, and
yeah. Did you see that?
So
the second year, did you see that a lot?
Yeah, a couple guys.
Because they came in a whole new coaching staff, everything. So I spoke with that coach after our districts was held in Fairfield at the college.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was there.
Yep.
And me and Stan, our whole team was balling out. And he talked to me after one of the games and was like trying to get me to come back, and I was like, dude, it just, that ship's kind of sailed. Like, I'm not gonna be a fucking professional infielder, like I'm not gonna be going to some high D1.
Right.
Like, it's just not in the cards. Like, it's kind of time for life to start, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So in that second year, they brought in that whole new coaching staff. How was he? I heard he was kind of. I mean, it sounded like he was, at least a little bit more knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he was.
So he brought his whole own staff and everything.
He was out of Texas. Came up here, him and the assistant, both out of Texas, came up.
Gotcha.
I'll tell you what, dude. As a person, people can say what they want about him. Mm-hmm. I always liked him.
Yeah.
That was probably the best shape I've ever been in.
Yeah, I heard he was.
Heard
it was wild.
Oh.
Because I was still talking to some of you guys, and what was that like? How was he as a new coach? I know that it was like you guys had to run a mile in like a crazy time.
Yeah.
And
so like we had
conditioning was huge.
Yeah. Like fall, off-season training and stuff. Once a week we had 4 a.m. workouts. That 4 a.m. workout, every week we had to run a mile. So first week, say I ran a 7-minute mile.
Mm-hmm.
The next week I had to beat that 7-minute mile.
So you just had to beat your time from the week before.
Yeah, and some of these guys. Do you remember John Carlos?
Yeah.
Little Puerto Rican guy.
Mm-hmm.
That first week.
That was my roommate.
Yeah, he's running a 5-minute mile.
Yeah.
By the end of it, he was, under 4 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, the fastest I've ever ran a mile was 5:30, and it was
that's getting it.
Yeah, and that was just because some of them guys.
For a guy your size, that's fucking moving.
Well, they're just gifted, like him. He's a little short, skinny guy. He can haul, man. Me, my off days, I'm running a mile, just to train, and that way I'm not getting my ass chewed at practice.
That guy just wakes up, rolls out of bed.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing, too, going from, even just like going to even just a small junior college team, and, dude, just the athletic difference you see in the players, like, you know, whenever you're in high school around these areas, you have like a handful of guys that
Right.
can probably play, and the other half that'll get you through the game.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, that's just like how it is around
Yeah.
here. And you know, you get into those levels, and it's everybody can
Yeah.
play. There's not one guy on the team that can't.
Right.
You know, well, he has a couple probably, but
Yeah.
most teams, you know, and we played against multiple guys that were that kid from Wabash Valley that was he was a first round draft pick going to the University of Louisville the next year throwing 98, 99. He was 6'7".
Dude. Yeah.
Like, dude, you wouldn't think like a little town Mount Carmel, you know, and this guy comes rolling, and that whole team, their whole 8, John A. Logan was the same way. Their whole 8 deep was going Division I. Their backup first baseman was going Division I.
Well, you know, that's the thing about, you know, some of those small JUCO schools. I mean, like how often do you see Puerto Rican guys or Venezuelan guys in D1 baseball?
Yeah.
You don't really see it a whole lot because half the time they're going from a JUCO school straight to the show.
Right.
You know, I mean, they're getting drafted.
Because at Wabash, they had that first baseman, big lefty.
Oh, gosh.
You remember, I don't know what he was, Cuban or something, but dude, big old boy. He probably was about 29 just by looking at him, but that dude could put the ball and put the bat on the ball. I thought about, I debated coming back for the second year, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
And
I'm, you know, so part of me sometimes obviously like, man, it'd been cool to go back, try, play a little more, but.
Well, like I said, you know, one door closes, another opens. So.
Yeah, it was. So you went back for your second year.
Yep.
Let's back up before that, because you're big into powerlifting.
Yep.
You are a powerlifter.
Yep.
You've got. I was just looking. I saw you're on like your team, and you guys travel together like as a team.
You know, so I started. That was actually right after we got out of Frontier. So
we can back up before that because I know. Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I want to. Because I know your weightlifting goes way before.
Yeah.
Way before you were in your 20s, you know. So, because I remember we also played against each other in high school once in Sisney, and I remember you pitched that game, and we were warming up, and our coaches were talking, and your coach had told our coach, he said, "Yeah, this kid we got pitching for us, like you were like the first signee to Fairfield, I think."
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, you know, he just signed going to Fairfield, and he's like, he's the strongest kid I've ever seen in my whole life. And, you know, I was like, yeah, whatever. And then he come running out on the mound. We were like, who the fuck is that? Like, this guy, like, I don't know what you weighed, like, in high school, but you weren't a small guy then. And I don't know how hard you were throwing, but that was the very first thing that your coach had told our coach. He said, I've never seen anyone in a weight room stronger than this kid at his age, ever.
Yeah.
So where did that start for you? The weightlifting, the love for the gym, lifting heavy weights. Like, when did that start?
So, 2012, we moved to Sisney from Arkansas.
Okay.
Got up here.
Where from? Arkansas.
Alma, Arkansas. It's
how old are you?
River Valley. I was just going into my freshman year.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So how did you like it down there compared to here?
At the time, you know, I loved Arkansas. My buddies were down there.
Right.
I've kind of been all over my whole life. My dad was in the military.
Oh, that's cool.
I was born in Germany.
Damn, you were born in Germany?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How long were you there?
6 years.
Whoa.
Yep.
Like, long enough to remember a little bit.
Yeah. Towards the end there.
Yeah.
You know, getting a little bit older.
Right.
So we were there. We got moved to Washington State.
Gotcha.
We were there for a year and a half. My dad retired. We went to Arkansas. He had a buddy in Arkansas.
And your dad was a badass from what I remember.
Yeah.
Green Beret.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Your dad was no fucking slouch.
Yeah.
You walked that straight in line, didn't you, whenever you were growing up, huh?
Yeah, man. He was Green Beret. You know, he went in, didn't plan on going in, got into some trouble. And at that time, it was jail time or military. He's like, well, I ain't going to jail. You know? Fuck that.
Yeah, I know.
So, but yeah, anyway, so 2012, we move up to Sisney. At the time, you know, I was kind of pissed off.
Right.
Like, man, I don't want any friends. You know, I'm sitting inside playing video games.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, maybe 150 pounds, little skinny guy.
Mm-hmm.
A couple months later, well, that summer, I got into playing pony league ball or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Met some people. Still was like, fuck this.
Right. Pony league's like young amateur baseball, young age.
Yeah.
That, I don't know if you guys aren't familiar with what we call pony league. It's like junior high, that level of like baseball. But yeah.
But met some guys, hung out with them a little bit. Still standoffish. Didn't want to. I didn't care. I was like, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
So fast forward, started school, still the same way. Dude didn't want anything to do with anybody.
Yeah.
Like I said, in my room playing video games. One day after school, my mom had picked me up, took me to Fairfield, and we pull up outside Main Street Gym.
Yep.
And I was like, "What are we doing?" She's like, "You're going in there."
The famous Main Street Gym. The
Main Street Gym. I said, "No, I'm not going in there." No way.
Yeah. That's a scary environment for
dude.
a young skinny kid.
Yeah. A lot of
especially
big guys
Main Street Gym.
Too.
That's not like like a Carmine Fitness, like Main Street Gym, there's real athletes, real bodybuilders, real powerlifters.
Right.
People that are, half their job is what's going on in that gym, it's
So we pull up, she's like, "Get out." Well, I'm not going to argue with my mom. I know how she is to get a backhand,
Yeah.
So I get out and go in, and right away, and people that watch this that go to Main Street, they'll remember it forever.
Yeah.
I heard fresh meat. I was like, oh man.
Yep.
Glenn Bora. Yeah, Glenn Bora is behind the counter. Jeff Heisner. They train together forever.
Yeah, I've seen you post about Glenn. We can get get into him here in a minute.
Yeah, for sure. But right away, fresh meat.
Yeah.
My mom talks to him, and he goes, "You're training with us today." I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
So I remember, dude, first workout I ever did was we had a back day. He was a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn was. So anyways, had a back day, dude. Next day I'm tore up.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
And the whole time we're training that first day, "You ain't coming back." He's in my ear.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm not coming back."
Yeah, this is one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, next day after school, here we go, back to Fairfield. I'm like, no, I ain't no. And I showed up, and every day for 6 years, I showed up, trained with Glenn and Heisner.
Damn.
Till he introduced me to Jordan Griffith, and that's when kind of my powerlifting career started.
I gotcha. So you weren't from an early age, were you more drawn to the powerlifting side as compared to the bodybuilding side, or at that point you were still just like, the gym's the gym?
Yeah, pretty much the gym was the gym. Like, I was obviously introduced to bodybuilding right off the bat.
Right.
I trained with Glenn for his last 2 shows.
Gotcha. You want to talk about Glenn a little bit?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
I know Glenn's a important figure in your whole fitness journey.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Glenn a little bit?
Yeah, he, like I said, he was a mentor of mine for forever. I guess, like I said, I met him in 2012.
Yeah.
Up until the day he passed away. Me and him were very close. Talked to him every day. He kind of pushed me into the career path that I'm in now.
I gotcha.
Yeah, man, he did a lot for me, throughout that time that I knew him, and the dude was, so smart. I would stay after at the gym every day if I wasn't working.
Right.
I'd stay after and just talk to him, and just the stories that he had, it's like, you walk in there, you walk into Main Street, and there's mob guys on the wall. Ex-president of the Hells Angels, Mel Chancey, Big Mel. He's buddies with him, got pictures of him on the wall. Ex-Hells henchman,
right,
out of Chicago before they converted to the Hells Angels. He's buddies with all these guys. He's like, man, how does he know all these people?
Right. Yeah.
And but yeah, he met a lot of these guys. He used to train with or whatever up north in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think the gym's name was USA Gym.
I gotcha.
Owner of that, Chuck, I don't remember his last name, but he met all those guys, you know,
Right.
through him. And actually, like Jay Cutler,
Yeah.
you know, he trains at USA Gym. He's buddies with Mel Chansey and Chuck and all them guys.
Damn.
So it's kind of a neat network, you know, to see who the people he met, and you know, just his whole story and background in the bodybuilding world, and you know, just the big figures that he met and knew, and you know, it's pretty neat.
Just from being in the gym.
Yeah.
I talked about it a lot. Just the community of the gym, and you know, it's kind of crazy. Like you talking about, it's weird to hear these stories when he starts talking. You're like, wow, all these connections that people have made, and like some big time connections.
Yeah.
Some of these people, you're like, whoa, and that's like something I figured out more recently. It's like, dude, there's so many people out there with so many cool things to talk about, and so many interesting stories, and things that people don't get the chance to talk about that would probably enjoy to talk about if they were ever asked about it.
Right.
So after you switched, you started favoring the powerlifting side. Were you strong kind of right off the bat? Is that sort of what? Did you have that newbie gains phase where it kind of took off and you're like, whoa, I'm like pretty strong? Like,
yeah.
Maybe.
So before I actually really started powerlifting, man, like I've always had bird legs. I was never a deadlifter, never a squatter.
Yeah.
But I would bench.
Right.
My bench was always pretty decent for, you know, being a sophomore, junior. You know, sophomore year, I think I'd benched 320 or whatever. Junior year, I was up around 365.
Yeah.
You know, senior year, I kind of plateaued for a while.
Right. Those are pretty insane numbers for juniors in high school.
Yeah.
I guarantee you right now, there's not any juniors around here in high school that are putting up 3.5 plates.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing, you know. I could bench 375, but I was squatting 315 maybe.
Yeah.
For one, I mean, I did not squat, did not deadlift, nothing. So Glenn introduced me to Jordan Griffith, and it kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
You know, first time I pulled, I think I pulled like 415, ugly, struggling.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he kind of just introduced me to him just because it was the guys he was training with then, it was an older crowd. You know, his crew was all older guys.
Right.
But so then we kind of started our own crew, and then our powerlifting team kind of took off from there.
So you guys were kind of at the start of that.
Yeah.
And how many others are now that you train with, or that you compete
Well,
with?
we've all kind of broke up since then. You know, I kind of went our own ways. One of the guys, Derek Rude, he's actually competing in that Indiana Muscle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Tommy's competing in it too.
Yeah.
Tommy's coming in a few weeks to be on the pod.
Oh really?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talk with Tommy about that.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys over from around that area, bodybuilders that come out of the Fairfield area.
Yeah, Josh Glisson.
Oh, is that Tommy's coach? Is that?
I don't know if he's coaching him or not.
One of those guys I remember seeing was kind of coaching John Glisson. That might not have been the name that I was thinking of.
Big guy, bald.
I gotcha.
Big beard.
Huh.
He's out of Main Street as well. He had his first show last year, and
powerlifting.
No. He's a bodybuilding.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the powerlifting stuff. You know, that team that we had. Yeah, we went to meets together, and a lot of big guys. You know, Derek Rude was a monster.
Yeah.
You know, he was 220 benching
220, okay.
465. You know.
Yeah.
Matt Duvall, he's like 6'4", walking around at like waking up at 320, dude.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
It was just his natural frame, 300 pounds.
Yeah. End of the day, he's 335 after he, just had arms on him and legs just insane, dude.
And you're natural always, right? Are you lifetime natural?
No. No.
Do you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open with all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of will lead down a path that also I know you've had issues with.
Okay.
Alcohol and
Sure.
Things like that.
Let's get into it.
So, what year was that? 2020. So we had done some meets 2018, 2019. This time I've been training, since 2012.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to school in Robinson, Illinois.
I gotcha.
I went to school for process technology. Anyways, so I was living alone. I was at that.
So this is college. You went to college again after the 2 years.
Yeah.
At Frontier. So,
Yep.
So you went to Robinson after that.
Yes.
And you moved there by yourself.
Yep.
What school is in Robinson?
Lincoln Trail.
Oh, okay.
It's another 2-year school.
I gotcha. I didn't realize that's where Lincoln Trail was.
Yep.
I know where you're at. Okay.
Yep. So I was up there doing that. The girl I'd been dating at the time, we were together for like 6 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up breaking up at that time. Well, after we broke up, I was like, it didn't really, it's one of those things where it bothers you at the time. Later on, it's like, well, okay, whatever.
All right.
So, anyways, I was on YouTube, and this is kind of, at that time, not a whole lot of people. I mean, maybe some. I wasn't a big, social media person or whatever.
Right.
You start seeing guys talking about taking stuff. Guys I'm training them with, they're taking stuff.
Right. Were you exposed to that early?
Not really.
Not really?
Or I was maybe kind of blind to it.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyways, I decided, I'm going to do it. But I had mentors in my life that had been on gear for years.
Sure.
So I had kind of people there to coach me,
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking tests. That was my first cycle.
Your first cycle was just tests?
Just straight tests.
How much were you running?
500 a week.
Okay.
Pitting twice a week.
Or is that 2 cc's? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've messed with it, since I've been off of it for a while.
Yeah.
2 cc's, I think. 250 is 1 cc.
Yep.
I gotcha.
So, did that. Blew up,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's wild. A lot of people think they start talking about taking gear and they think they got to get on these huge cycles. And
no, dude.
You hear a lot of people talking about like, dude, fucking 250 a test a week.
Yeah.
You will be surprised.
Yes. For sure.
Like and it happens fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know if half that's like placebo or what, but it just seems like 3 days later, it's like weights are doubling. And
Yeah.
you're like, Jesus.
It's quick.
It's quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strength wise, it's like a few days, maybe a week,
Yeah.
2 weeks. You wake up one day, look in the mirror, you're like, huh,
Yeah.
what happened there?
The stubble's growing in a little quicker around the chin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're realizing, hey, I'm not getting there as tired.
Yeah.
I don't get sore.
Yeah.
I recover in like a 3-hour nap and I'm ready to go again.
100%.
So whenever you first started, the first cycle you ran was 500 a test.
Yep.
How long did you run that?
That was 12 weeks.
12 weeks.
Yep.
And then you come completely off.
Yep.
I gotcha.
Took a PCT, came off.
What did you run afterwards?
Novadex.
Yeah.
Yep. Luckily, I never had any issues. I know some guys.
Did you get blood work done beforehand?
Yes.
What were your blood work looking like? Do you remember what
Yeah,
was your testosterone sitting at like before?
I don't remember.
Was it fairly regular?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was at before. Now coming off, I mean, it was pretty high. It was over 1,000.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, like 1,200 or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably a little higher than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. Loved it.
Yeah.
Very addictive personality.
Yeah.
Very. So
confidence.
Oh yeah.
And you always like you hear about roid rage and all that stuff. I've never really like been around anyone that was like
no
having issues that extreme. They like from what I've kind of heard, it's more of a myth. It's like, okay, I wouldn't say it's a myth. I think there's probably people that mentally we're not well anyway.
Right.
And then they start adding in compounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's no telling what that does to you. Probably pretty bad. But
I think it depends on the person as well. You know, I knew guys that would get on for their first time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm taking tests now, so now I'm gonna be an ass." You know.
yeah.
Well, why?
Right.
I mean, you go into that mindset. I mean, you're kind of an ass already, but you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. It's like
But-
no, you're already an
Yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
Yeah, you're just making it more known for
Yeah.
everybody now.
Right.
Yeah, that
But yeah. So I did that. Took that first cycle. I think I came off for maybe a month, 2 months, whatever it was, and then got back on. That next cycle, I had taken NPP and test again. Sustanon. Love that.
so you test MPP and sus.
Well, I didn't take the test. I took
Or
sus.
just,
Sus
the
is basically
sus is just a test.
yeah. It's basically
There's
a mix of
yeah,
multiple.
Yeah, cypionate and then
Yeah.
sustenate and
Yep.
yeah.
So I took the sus and NPP, and wow,
Yeah.
dude, I was
NPP is not one you hear talked about.
No, not
as
really.
often.
It's
Is that like a
kinda-
bodybuilder drug more per se, or
uh,
because I know there are bodybuilders, I do hear about it in the bodybuilding world, but it seems like NPP is not one that gets brought up as much.
Yeah.
It seems like you're always hearing of Masteron and Anavar and
Right.
Tren, of course, and whatever else, but like NPP is not a. I don't know. I just don't feel like I see it. I don't
No.
hear it being talked about.
it's basic. It's an old
old
drug.
school.
You know that? Yeah. I mean, it's Deca.
okay.
Basically,
you.
is all it is.
Yeah. And
It's essentially the same thing.
so did you? Because I know whenever people talk about DECA, there's a lot of like they prescribe. Well, obviously all steroids I think were for animal use,
Yeah.
right, one way or another. But I know like DECA, they still like they prescribe that to dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
And, like dogs that ache or have like achy joints and
People as well.
people as well.
Burn victims and stuff. Or
Gotcha.
yeah.
For recovery.
yeah.
And for I know a lot of people that run DECA just for the fact of like the recovery. And they don't get sore,
Yep.
and that's probably one of those drugs you feel like you can train 7 days a week,
Right.
and whenever you're in that, whether you're in a prep or whatever it is.
Yep.
So you ran that. How long did you run that one?
That was another 12-week cycle.
Did you notice a major difference from the test alone, and then compared to the test plus the NPP?
Yes. So
Strength and physical,
oh yeah, dude.
like the way you looked.
Yeah. So I kind of looked like a bowling ball, to be
Sure.
honest with you.
Yeah.
I held so much water, so I didn't. I
I was
was
gonna
only.
say DECA will do it. It puts that liquid around your joints.
Yeah.
And you'll hold on to more. Yeah.
Well, so it was kind of the test as well,
Mm-hmm.
the Sustanon.
Right.
I was running like 600 milligrams a week of Sust,
Mm-hmm.
and which is way too much. And I was.
I've always heard like you could really get away with like 400 of tests. I hear a lot of people that don't go over like 250. There's a lot of back and forth on whether you should be running tests higher than your other compounds or
Right.
you should be running your compounds higher than your test.
Yeah.
And I think it was always at one time you should be running at least as much tests as you are other compounds. But I've heard people talk about in videos that actually like you can run 250 of tests.
Yeah.
And you don't have to match that to your other compounds.
Right.
I don't know. That's
And it depends too. If you start holding a lot of water, which at the time, I myself did not realize what was going on.
right.
I just this is great.
Yeah.
I'm strong.
Strong.
I'm,
feel good.
round,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I was holding a lot of water, and
Were you drinking
oh yeah.
on top. Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna talk about as well. I'm taking all this stuff, and I had a real bad drinking problem at the time.
Mhm.
So at that time, I think I'd turned 21, whatever, and yeah, I was. It had got so bad, I was drinking a 30-pack every night
Yeah.
and 2 pints of whiskey
Yeah.
every night. I'm
Yeah.
21 years old. Why is a 21-year-old doing that?
Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you were in Robinson whenever you turned 21. At that point, whenever I turned 21, I'd already I had hit the road and was working. I was living in Iowa City, Iowa.
Okay.
Whenever I turned 21, and yeah, dude, I mean, getting off work, it was the same. We were running to the gas station as soon as you get off work. We were getting tall boys just for the drive back to the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'd cram all the tall boys in the hotel and whatever else we'd got. Because at that time it was more than alcohol that I was indulging in. So whatever else we had our hands on. And then it's like get all primed up, then leave, go out for the night,
Yeah.
be out till 3 o'clock in the morning, coming back. And was there a time that you were like, okay, either like, how long did you go drinking like that while running steroids? And was there anyone ever that like was like, hey?
Nobody knew.
No one.
I mean, some
that
people
bad.
knew.
Yeah.
You know, but I wasn't really going out at the time.
Right.
I was drinking like that in my apartment every
Yeah.
night by myself.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I think I had some stuff going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that was my way out. You know, I've always been, like I said, I've always had, for the most part, an addictive personality. When I get onto something, I'm fucking,
yeah,
that's it.
Right.
And, but the drinking, you know, like the steroids and stuff and the lifting was a way out. But then I'm looking for something else after I get done with the gym.
What do I do whenever I leave the gym?
Yeah. So now I'm not in the gym. I'm focused on what I'm doing. And now I'm home. Now what am I going to do?
Right.
You know, I'd go on YouTube, turn on this. It was a powerlifting motivation video. I'd move my chair over in front of my TV, 30-pack next to me, and sit there and just hammer away.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. Like I said, there was a few things going on at that time. And, like I said, I think that was just a way out.
Yeah. You said you went through a breakup around that same time.
Yeah, which I was kind of drinking sort of heavy before that. And that goes back to...
Well, I know, because it definitely started, because in college we was getting it too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was Bush Heavies.
Yeah.
You know, and it was every single day.
Yeah.
As many as we could get our hands on.
Right. And I guess that's kind of where it stemmed from, because like in high school, you know, a lot of people through high school, they're drinking, partying and stuff. That was never me.
Yeah.
Till I got out.
Yeah.
And then I was drinking, partying all the time. I mean, you know, you were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then turned 21. Well, now I'm not having to ask people, you know, hey, can you go pick up? Now I'm going every day, dude. It got so bad, the lady at the liquor store, I would get done at the gym. I would get done with class, go home, eat, go to the gym, go to the liquor store, and she had a 30-pack on the counter waiting for me every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's whenever you start to, you know, and as someone that's had some trouble with drinking, and most alcoholics could probably tell you the same thing. You know, you've got your spot that you go to and get your alcohol from, and then you start to realize, like, wow, this person, like, knows my name.
Yeah.
This person, like, they know whenever I'm going to be in here.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what I want. And you kind of start to realize, you're like, whoa, other people are starting to pick up on this habit. And, yeah, it just seems, it's a weird thing, like, at a young age, though. I don't know what that is. You kind of, like, whenever you look at adults or whatever it is, and you think about, like, growing up, you almost have this perception that, like, everyone is, like, drinking just because they can.
Right.
Right? You're like, well, of course, once you turn 21, like, you drink because you can. That's what you do. And, you know, and then you got to be careful, especially these pages on YouTube or whatever it is that you look at, and, you know, you see some of these guys that are big time into the fitness industry or whatever, and a lot of them are also known they live crazy lifestyles on top of that.
Yep.
And, you know, that's where you start getting into, you start seeing these guys at 30 that are croaking out. And steroids a lot of time catch the heat for that.
Yeah.
But what they don't mention is they were either low-key alcoholics on the side, or a lot of them, something about the techno lifestyle is huge in weightlifting, like wherever that fucking comes together, I don't know. But I know cocaine is a huge one for these influencers, like, you know, hallucinogens or like that whole part. It's like, I don't know what it is, like with that, like the hip hop fucking, and like that whole lifestyle, and like it goes in with like, especially the bodybuilding side of weightlifting. And that's whenever you hear these tragic stories of 35-year-old, class of heart attack.
Yeah.
You know, like a steroid user, overdoses. But it's like, well, a lot of times you start breaking down the autopsies of these people, and you look at what else they're putting into their body, and you're like,
all kinds of drugs in their system.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like meth was being thrown around there for a little time. If you follow Mike Mincer, and that dude was one of the best bodybuilders ever. He was also a fucking meth head.
Yeah.
It's so whenever you're unfamiliar with, that's why I think the fitness industry can be dangerous to people that aren't like knowledgeable or don't do their due diligence about the people that you're looking up to. And I look up to multiple people that do things I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to have that where you draw the line.
Yeah,
of like,
100%.
And something about you see these people and you just think like, oh, well, they're of age, so they're drinking, they're doing all these things. And then there's like a switch, at least that hit for me. And then I started realizing, wait, like the people that I actually want to be like are the ones like I'll just like say C-Bum. Just because, arguably one of the greatest bodybuilders to ever do it.
Right, 100%.
And you start watching guys like that and going back to the point of, like, you said once, like, you get done at the gym, you were like, well, fuck, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And you get in this mindset of, like, well, I did, like, what my influencers, I ate my meals and I went to the gym, and now what do I do? But then the more you dive into these people and you start to realize, like, oh, shit. It really is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't stop at the gym.
Yep.
Like, they go home, and it's not like, what do I do now? No, they're, like, prepping their meals. I'm already thinking about my workouts for the next day, and, like, what do I need to get, It's like, oh, this is, like, a 24-hour thing. Like, this isn't you don't get to turn the switch on and off whenever you want.
Yep.
And then, like, party on your free time.
Well, and that's why he's where he's at, man.
Yeah.
One of the greatest to do it.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, you see that. That's where it kind of clicked for me, and I had that that aha moment of, no, like the way that I'm like, people aren't living like this.
Yeah.
And whether you blame that on social media or whatever it is, but it is like kind of a fantasize about life of being under the influence and like especially being jacked, and you see these guys like, oh, they're living the lifestyle. And then, like, sort of what I've gotten into also in the past talking about is, like, the stuff that those guys don't want to talk about is whenever they're going home and they're either drinking themselves to death or you start hearing about guys that have erectile dysfunction at young ages, or you have guys that can no longer have babies and all this stuff starts flooding in afterwards. And a lot of this stuff is, I think, preventable.
Yeah. And
you can work around a lot of this stuff
100%
if you do it the right way. Did you, after you got done with your cycles, did you get new blood work done?
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Did you fall off hard? Did you have a crash, or did you level out pretty good?
On the SUST and NPP cycle, yeah, I mean, I crashed hard.
Yeah.
I did not PCT right at all. I just went back to, I'll take Nolvadex, I did it the first time, I'll be good.
I gotcha.
And I fell off hard.
Yeah.
And I just, I was beat up. I just didn't feel good. Always tired.
Right.
Yeah, that was bad.
Do you remember how low your test came after that?
Man, I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was low though.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
I mean, they. Yeah, it was like I said. You could feel it. When you're on, it's like.
Yeah.
All the time.
You kind of start to get used to that. It feels like the norm.
Yeah, walking around with a pump for no reason.
Literally.
I woke up and,
That was the wildest thing. I swear, like, you could, like, tie your shoes and your forearms would be pumped up.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, the wildest thing. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, sitting there, like, folding laundry, dude. Or, like, scrubbing the dishes, washing some dishes, and then you get done and, like, you can feel your forearms are, like, swelling up.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit. Like.
Yeah, and, going back to the cycles and stuff that I've taken, and the alcohol usage, I mean, all the time, every day. I think that held me back a lot from the potential gains and strength that I could have had, 'Cause I'd be hungover. Well, not so much then, but, later on, I'm hungover for 2 days. I'm not eating for a day or drinking water for a day.
Yeah.
Second day, I'm finally starting to eat a little bit, drink a little bit of water, it was a mess.
You think about that a lot?
Yeah.
The gains you missed out on?
Yeah.
And maybe the times you missed. Do you still drink a lot now?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink that often. I may drink
Right.
like if I have a day off or something, or a couple days off. Maybe one of those days, like I have a 7-day break.
I got you.
Now we have to cover overtime on those days. But say I know for sure I have no coverage that day or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
I may. But when I do drink, that's the thing. I still drink a lot.
Right.
There for a while I was going out a lot. I don't really go out that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do. Like if I'm sitting at home, I may.
Yeah.
It's nothing for me to put back. 20 tall boys like it's nothing, which is insane.
Yeah.
And it's and a lot of times I think back on, like I said, whether it be friendships or relationships I had with, or intimate relationships.
Sure.
I regret some of the things that I've done because
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize. Like, I mean, I get so blacked out drunk that I would wake up the next day and be like, I didn't even know how I got in bed, or I'm passed out on my floor, and I'm thinking, what did I do? And I'm freaking out,
Yeah.
And then, one of my buddies texts me, oh, yeah, dude, you were a complete fucking idiot. And I'm like, oh, no. I might have gotten a fight. I was always fighting.
Yeah, and you're too damn big to be fighting on
Yeah,
people.
I was always fighting, dude. And,
yeah, you're too damn big to just be fighting some dude walking down the street.
well, and that was the thing, like, someone may say something small to me, just mouth something, whatever.
Yeah.
Right away,
Yeah.
and whether I got my ass kicked or didn't, the
Didn't
whole
matter.
time I'm like, I love the whole thing.
Yeah. Was that whenever you were on steroids?
No, that was just forever.
But just how it's always been?
Yeah.
Dude, I found myself doing that, I just, God, dude, the amount of, the next day, that waking up, and, like, I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
But there's, like, a feeling in the air,
Yeah.
and you're like, something's off.
Yeah.
Like, something's not right. I did something I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And that just gets worse, especially like whenever you're married or whatever, and you have to wake up next to your wife and you're thinking,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know how this conversation's about to go. I don't know what kind of, and then you're like waiting to like wait for her to wake up and see how mad she is.
Right.
And like, dude, it's just a stressful
Dude,
way to live.
It's terrible. Like, and that's the thing, like I said, I'm not going out and doing that stuff, like partying and stuff like I was. So that's kind of mitigated the dumb decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like, stuff that I've done in the past, dude, if I could take back 90% of the shit I've done, dude, I'd be happy. But, you can't live in the past.
Yeah.
That's kind of one thing I've learned, too. The old you is not the new you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I've fucked up 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Probably more than 1,000 times.
Yep.
And, the people that do give you second chances and shit, I mean, you got to be very thankful for those people.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Especially because I can be pretty cut and dry with those types of things of like no second chances. Like once you've crossed that line with me, it's hard to come back.
Yeah.
And I try to be better about that and understand because I've been shown grace in so many points of my life and let off the hook for things I probably shouldn't have been and got myself out of situations that I probably should have went worse than it did. And, ended up getting myself home on nights that probably should have ended me up in the jailhouse, the local jailhouse somewhere.
Yeah.
One of those days it did land me up in the local jailhouse.
I'm right there with you.
And that's, how I got to where you spent some time in the jail or what?
I mean, not very long, a few hours, till Mom came and picked me up at
You want to talk about it?
Oh, dude. I mean, yeah, we can. It was nothing crazy. So I was 21.
Yeah.
Got a DUI,
Same. Probably not something to fist up about, but been there, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyways, I'm thinking, this dude's going to let me off the hook. He pulls me over, state cop.
Mm-hmm.
So he has me get out, do the field sobriety test. I'm thinking, I'm good, dude.
That's what you think.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing was, it was one of those days, I drank 30 beers that day.
Mm-hmm.
Went back to the liquor store, got a 12-pack. I'm going to meet up with some friends, and I get pulled over. Like I said, field sobriety test. Thought I passed it. Whatever. Pulls out the breathalyzer. I'm like, do I do it? Do I not do it? I don't know. So I just did it, And then he asked me, he goes, how many beers have you drank today? I was like, I don't know, maybe 8 or something. Totally lied my ass off. Well, whatever I blew was about equivalent to 8 beers. So someone was watching over me then, because I should have been way over the limit.
Yeah.
So anyways, cuffs me up. And at that time, I was, taking all kinds of shit, bigger guy.
Yeah.
He's got me cuffed behind my back. And I'm like dying, shoulders are dying. I'm like begging him, dude, can you please fucking, cut me up front or something. Yeah. And so he's up in the front seat and asked me whatever, running my stuff. And he goes, you know what? Gets out of the car and opens the back door, uncuffs me. I'm thinking, he's going to let me go.
Yeah.
He's like, put your hands up front. I was like, oh. So he let me make a phone call, and why I called my mom, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad I did.
Oh, no, I've been there.
And
you know why.
Oh, yeah.
That's who you need.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
In that moment, whenever it's like, I mean, I had a wife that I got to call, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, this is, 1:30 in the morning. She wakes up. Hey, what you doing? Going to jail? She's like, what? I was like, yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm going to jail. I got pulled over. Jacob Dwayne. Dude, when the middle name's thrown, you're fucked.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, so she comes and picks me up, chewed my ass, which I needed.
Sure.
Now, and, after that, when I got arrested, went through, did the whole court thing, whatever, ended up getting reckless driving, luckily.
Damn.
So I didn't have to do the whole breathalyzer in the truck, the meetings, I got lucky with that. But yeah, I thought I quit drinking there for a little bit. Thinking, oh yeah, I'll never do this again.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Just for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah, I've been there, man. That's how it was, and which I was like pretty far off in the addiction whenever I got pulled over. So like I was kind of at that point of like I was oddly grateful that I had been pulled over.
Yeah.
It was like finally somebody is stopping me in my tracks.
Right.
And fucking putting a halt on this whole situation.
Yeah.
It's like looking back now, it was like I thought my whole life was over. And I was like, wow, I'm getting a DUI. Like, my wife's going to leave. My family probably disowned me. Like, they've told me time and time again this was going to happen.
Yep.
And I didn't listen. And now here we are. And
because it'll never happen to you, right?
Right. Yeah, because you think, of
Not
course.
you.
I mean, I'd been drinking and driving.
Yeah.
I hate, you shouldn't. But I've been doing it since I was 16.
Yeah.
Like, and you just think it'll never happen to me.
Right.
I'm careful and all these things. And you don't realize whenever you're drunk like that how reckless you're actually being.
100%.
You think you're in control of everything that's going on, and you're not.
Yeah.
And there was something. There was a really weird feeling of relief. I remember as I was being drove to jail that day, and I almost felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
It was like I can no longer hide. Like I am exposed to the fullest extent of the law and the public, and the public's probably going to read my name in a paper somewhere now. And there's no hiding from it anymore. Yeah. And there was like a part of me that was like, oh, thank God. Like, I needed that. Like I needed this like weight off my shoulders. And you say, I'm never going to do it again. And that's the same thing I had. And I ended up relapsing twice again after getting arrested. Yeah. Before I ever actually like finally stopped for good. Well, hopefully for good for now.
Yeah.
Don't like to get too far ahead of myself whenever it comes to that. But
yeah, I mean,
I'm sober today because of that moment, I think.
Right.
I think if I wouldn't have gotten arrested and had to go through that experience, I don't know that it ever would have became so real to me.
Yeah.
The how serious of a situation it had become. And I don't think I would have ever actually realized that if it hadn't been for getting arrested that day.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I wish that day the day I was arrested, I would have had, the same come to Jesus meeting, but I didn't. That carried on for. Yeah. I was getting in wrecks and all kinds of shit. And,
right.
Even then, I'd get in a wreck and be like, surely this will do it. No.
Yeah. It Yeah. So you have a spiritual side? Are you religious? You said you felt like somebody was watching over you that day?
Yeah. I mean, especially, well, I probably should be dead 1,000 times, right? Like I was in a 4-wheeler wreck. That one definitely should have done it.
Right.
Didn't. Yeah, I mean, maybe somewhat. I just started, so I know nothing about the Bible.
Okay.
Until like here recently.
Mm-hmm.
I seen this. Really. I seen this thing on that Sean Ryan podcast. They were talking about. It's called an Action Bible.
Yep.
I actually went online, ordered one. So my girlfriend, she's she goes to church every Sunday almost. All this stuff.
I gotcha.
Tries to get me to go. I'm like, nah, man, church ain't for me.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I've had past experiences a long time ago.
Right.
Where it was like, just a, show up on a Sunday. Oh, look at me,
Mm-hmm.
And then fucking for a week they're doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Drinking 30 beers a day,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so anyways, and that's not every church, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But, she's kind of more on the spiritual side, and like even my mom and, my dad was never really on that spiritual side, whatever. So I never grew up in church, but I decided, I'm going to get this Action Bible and start reading through it. It's like a comic book, dude.
Yeah.
And it's got like all the major stories, whatever.
Right.
And I don't know. You can decipher what you want out of it.
Yeah.
And that's like, I enjoy reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, at least now I know a little bit about whatever.
Yeah.
Whether or not.
Do you get a sense of, do you get like a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, kind of like like a sense of some sort of like connection whenever you're like reading it?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, do you feel some sort of like you're kind of being drawn to it in a way, or?
Somewhat. Now, I mean, I guess when it comes to like that kind of stuff, I've always thought some of it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of it.
Right.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Sure.
But, I don't know, like going back to Glenn,
mm-hmm.
When so a couple days before he passed away, actually, which he read, the Bible, the Quran, all this shit. He was never really super religious.
Gotcha.
But he was just very knowledgeable about everything.
Damn. That's crazy. I actually just been telling Bradley I'm getting ready to get me a Quran.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm going to read it.
Yeah, I mean...
Because I'm trying to... I'll let you finish your story.
Well, just going back to that, he... so, a couple days before he passed away, he always told me a little bit about some things he had seen or experience he's had.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, a couple days before he passed away, I was on midnights. At that time, we were on 3-shift rotation. And I was going into work, and he had actually texted me, said, every once in a while, you're calling, tonight was mine, it's a gift, be safe. Well, he'd got COVID. And he was actually telling me earlier that day, he's chewing the nurse's ass because they were doing whatever. He was just that way.
Yeah.
Funny dude, great guy, but you pissed him off. He was
a lot of personality.
Yeah. So, anyways, next day, or he said, be safe. I texted him and said, yeah, it is a gift. I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, next day, he's unresponsive, on a ventilator. So what was that? Was that some type of spiritual sign that he's seen, or he there was something, I would say. 'Cause I've never received a message or a text from him like that before.
Yeah, something moved him in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, going back to like the Bible and stuff, I think, there's something.
Right.
So
I agree.
I'd much rather be on the safe side than not.
I'm in the midst of a serious spiritual awakening myself, in a sense of like, I have a hard time with like the story of Jesus, and I'm having a hard time with the thought of like God being on earth in like a human life form.
Yeah.
Because whenever I think of God, I don't think of it in that way.
Yeah.
I don't think of it as like a human life form, and I'm not in a way where I think I'm like trying to put limits on what I think God could do.
Right.
Of course not. But that just seems like beneath him to me. You know, it's like in my idea of like what God is like. I just went to a Jordan Peterson lecture a couple weeks ago, and he kept talking about like the underlying, what is like that underlying like level of morality that most people have, right? And it's simple things. It's like you know, there's like something in you that just so you're not out just like fucking committing murder every single day, right? Like there's something, and some people don't have that, and like. Yeah, those are people that I think you would say are like they've got demons. Yeah, they're like haunted by demons, and like that's. But like, yeah, to me, God again, it's the way that like. It's like everything in this life just makes sense in a weird way. Yeah, and it like even getting into like a more hippie side of it, I think it's like the wind and like the air and like if this air that you feel this flows through, and like we need this air to survive, and it just so happens there's a fucking abundance of it all around us all the time, and like without it we would just die within seconds. And like the nice things you do again, like I don't know, it's like just the goodness, that underlying like spoken of like higher moral like integrity that, you know, whenever you hold the door open for someone just like out of like a polite manner, and like small things like that, I think, are what like God is, and it's the way that I think all of us really should be. It's the idea I think that like all of us really are very similar. Yeah. In a sense. Yeah. And like a lot of us like think the same things, and you have big things that divide us, of course, but like down at the core of all of us as humans, like there it is, just like an underlying level of like moral integrity that keeps you from doing certain things. Yeah. And like I said, I'm just now like trying to discover this. Yeah. And like,
I mean, me too, man.
Learn more about it and try to see where I think I fall into all of that. Yeah. Because like I said, it just, I don't know. It's something. It's interesting, and it's going like to the Quran, and like, cause I know like in that religion, you know, they more so see Jesus as like a prophet, and not really the Son of God. And that's like kind of something I can get behind. Like I don't think that I think Jesus was a real person. I do. But I think it was more so in the sense if he had like a really high spiritual connection. Yeah. However he got that, I don't know. And if we want to like really get into it, I really think it goes back to mushrooms. Like I think a lot of religion was based off people just tripping sack. And like seriously, like, and there's more stuff coming out, and like back in, you know, they these old spiritual temples, places of prayer, and they had like underground rooms in these places, and they're now finding there were like old cups and stuff where they would drink, and it was like wine or ale, whatever they were drinking. Yeah. And in the mixtures of these, they're finding like psilocybin mushroom remains, and like, oh really? Basically, yeah, they were meeting together in what I think we would now call church. Yeah. And they were all drinking this liquid and getting tripped out, and then we're praising to their gods. And to me, that seems logical. Yeah. That's a very logical. I'm like, okay, that I believe. Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've ever done anything like that. Hallucinogens.
No, I've never done any drugs, to be honest with you.
So, like, yeah, my experiences with hallucinogens, and, I've experienced with LSD, with mushrooms, with DMT. And because of those experiences, that is why I do have a sense of like spiritual being. That's why I think there's more going on in this world that we realize. Yeah. And I think there's other dimensions of things going on in the air right now around us. And I think it's energies. Energies, like I believe in that, like a person's energy. There's people that walk into a room, and if they're in a bad mood, they could kill the whole vibe in the whole room, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So like, what is that? Like, to me, that's like the energy. That's like God. In my sense, right? That's like God flowing through all of us, is that like energy, and like, so yeah, I don't know what any of that means. Yeah. Like,
no, I mean,
I don't know where like I'd go forward with that.
There's 1,000 different perspectives on religion, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say one is totally right and one's totally wrong?
Yeah.
You know, it's thousands of years of things put into a book written by other people.
Right.
You know,
some people that weren't even there.
Yeah. I mean, there's no telling.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess like you were saying, you know, you're just trying to figure out, you know, what religion is to you.
Yeah.
You know, what do you believe? What do you...
Right.
I kind of went down this path because of the drinking thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I need to... Whether or not this does it for me, I don't know. Yeah. Obviously, you know, for some people, the gym, like you,
mm-hmm.
you know, you're in the gym 7 days a week or whatever, training.
Right.
Just to keep your mind off of alcohol or
mm-hmm.
or drugs or whatever,
yeah.
you know, whatever your addiction was.
Right. Alcohol is most recent. I've had multiple.
Yeah.
Well, people always ask me, what was my thing? And it was like, well, what really got me was alcohol.
Yeah.
But, there's a long line. Yeah, like, you name something, I was probably addicted to it or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
But, yeah, that was kind of, you know, where I went with that was, like, I acknowledge, okay, I need to get away from the drinking. I know it's not like it was,
mm-hmm.
but I'd like to get to a point where I'm done completely, you know.
And to me, like, what is that like, was in you that was, like, you could have said I wanted to do anything, but there was something that was like, okay, maybe the alcohol needs to stop.
Yeah.
And, like, to me, like, that is, like, God working.
Yeah.
Whatever you view God to be.
Right.
I also think God, in more so the sense of, like, I think God is, like, the power of the universe. I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
This shit is all, I think this shit's already all pre-planned. It's already happened.
Well, and that was, like, I don't know if you remember the message I sent you.
Yeah.
Like, the day before, or the day you messaged me, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The day before, I don't know what it was, but I can't say it was a dream or whatever, or a feeling, but I was like, yeah, man, I literally just had a thought maybe, or a dream, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That you were going to message me about this. Now, that dream, feeling, whatever, could have been totally fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And then I get on Instagram the next day, and it pops up, you know, Chase sent you a message.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
I was mind blown, kind of.
Yeah. I relate to that a lot. I've been experiencing that a lot lately, of, like, things that kind of just, like, are happening, and you're like, whoa, like, wait a second. Lately I've been having, like, this, like, with the podcast and stuff, just, like, reaching out to people, and through me just reaching out to certain people, I've already had, like, crazy experiences that, like, I wouldn't have had if I wouldn't have just been urged to just reach out and to do it. And to me, I'm like, that's God working in my life. Like, that is the forces of nature, of the powers of the universe, like, moving me in the sense of the way that I'm supposed to be moving.
100%.
And that's really scary for someone that, like, has a really bad ego, like myself sometimes, and, like, likes to be in control. And I'm like, well, this is kind of me doing things that I don't really want to do, but I'm feeling, like, pulled in that direction. I don't really know why. And that's what I've been trying to compare, like, what I think God is, in the sense of, like, you having that thought right after I had gotten, it was like right after I had gotten in trouble with all the drinking, and a friend of mine that I guess he's an addict, and I guess you could probably say we probably started our addiction journeys together and went through a lot of that together. I hadn't spoke to him in years after all that had happened, because, you know, whenever you go through all that and you both are basically addicts and shit blows up, probably best to separate.
Yeah.
And so we kind of did that, and I hadn't spoke to him in like a year, and I felt, you know, because he had really went through it, I felt like even harder than I had, and I felt pretty guilty about not being there as much as I probably should have been for him.
Right.
And Briley had kicked me out of the house, and I was at my parents' house, and I was getting ready to come back over here and see her and see kind of where we were going to go from here, because I just relapsed and acted a fool. And I got this weird, like, feeling. I started thinking about my friend Tucker, and I was like, you know, just like, what is he doing? You know, like, whenever, you know, it's like he was the guy I talked to for so much, and now we're, like, not speaking. The same day that I was supposed to come back over here and see her, it was like noon. I'm about to leave the house, and my phone, I haven't spoken to him in over a year. My phone lights up. Tucker's calling me. And I was like, yo. Like, I just got cold chills fucking telling you about it. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, and then I'm like looking around. I'm like, is someone messing with me right now? And I answered the phone. I was like, hello? And he was like, yo, what's up, bro? And I was like, dang. I broke down. I was like, dude. I told him everything. And he's a very religious person now. And so I was telling him everything that was going on, and he was like, "Yeah, bro." He's like, "Sounds like you're exactly where you need to be in life." And I was like, "Whoa,
That's wild.
yeah." I just got like, dude, it just hit me again. You know, it's like I haven't spoke to him in a year, and he just says, "Yeah." He's like, "Sounds like you're exactly where you need to be in life." And I was like, "Fuck, dude, maybe I am.
Yeah.
Maybe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be."
Right.
And so yeah, that's something about that. That's why I was like, I don't believe in coincidences. If something's supposed to happen, then I think that it will happen. And I think if you tune in to that moral high ground that I think we all have, to some extent, if you believe that and you accept that and you buy into that and you learn to be okay with that, um, and use that as like your foundation, and just know that if I continue every day to do positive,
Right.
to treat people right, I stay in the gym, I go to meetings if I need to, or I just keep doing these small steps that have got me essentially to where I am right now.
Yeah.
Then like good things will come.
Right.
There's no choice, right? Like good has to come out of it.
Yep.
If you continue to put good into this, good will come out. And like I think that's like a perspective that's worth $1 million fucking dollars.
Right.
And
I totally agree.
I spent so long without that perspective of like, nope, these are just the cards I was dealt. Like I'm just a fucking out of luck. Sorry, POS. You know, like this is just my hand that I was dealt, and it's like, well, no, like we're all dealt the same hand.
Yep.
And it's just like your perspective on how you play it. You know, is what makes the difference.
So I seen something yesterday. It kind of has to do with what you're talking about. It was a quote that said, "Until death, failure is psychological."
Mm-hmm.
So with all the stuff you had going on, and at the time you thought, well, I'm a failure or whatever. Yeah, you could have let that lead you down a whole different path than where you're at now.
Sure.
But now look at you. What you're over a year sober.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff.
About 4 months.
You're back with your old lady.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. That's been sort of the kind of the foundations to like that whole mindset of like if I continue to do good, good will come out, because I just keep seeing it every day. Like the last year and a half, I just keep doing good, and like, I've been very blessed the last 6 months. A lot of things have turned around, things are going well, and like, I don't think that happened. I know for a happened that it can't be coincidence or like, it's just the hand you were dealt. Because if that's the case, then no, I would probably be like using hard drugs right now in some alley, like on the verge of death.
Yeah,
like if that's know. Just if you just play the hand you're dealt, like fuck that.
Yeah.
Dude. Like that sounds like a sorry ass attitude if you ask me.
I agree.
Like that's what I get frustrated at myself looking back over all the years of like I was like, you are such a pussy, dude. Like you were acting like a little girl. I don't know what other word to use, but. That's what I look at. I look at this. I'm like you were broken, you were soft, like, and you thought you were hard and tough, and you thought you were like doing the cool things, and it's like, no, you were a joke, dude. You were an absolute joke.
Yep.
I'm like, hopefully it doesn't take people getting to the point I was at to have to come to that realization.
Right.
But it's like the sooner you just come to the realization that we really don't mean shit, and that nobody cares.
Yeah.
Just like. This life can literally be whatever you want it to be. As cliche as that sounds. So if that was the case, people all the time you would just see giving into their addictions and would never make shit out of their life. Like
100%.
So
at what point did you you were struggling with your addictions and stuff? And I remember, you were in the gym before as well, right?
Yeah.
So at what point though did you think, or did you realize that if I'm in the gym 6 days a week, this is going to offset, what I'm thinking about.
So
outside.
After we moved, I gotta take a piss. I want to pause this, and then we'll get into this. Sorry about that. So what were we talking
I
about?
think kind of how you decided that the gym was the way out. For you.
Yeah, the gym for me, I started to notice that the gym was a good... So this is a little insider knowledge to Briley and I's sort of things we've put into place to kind of recognize if it seems like I'm backtracking. right? If I'm kind of heading back to a bad place.
Right.
And the way we came up with this, and one thing, it's because I started to notice, I realized every time that I would come back to a relapse, because people think, like, I got sober a year and a half ago, almost, but for like a year before that, I had been trying. I didn't just decide a year and a half to get sober. You know, this is like 3 years of trying to get sober at this point. So the year and a half, or like I'd say probably the year before I finally cut it off, I had 3 different stints or so in there of sobriety, one being about 4 months, and then a relapse, one being about, another 2 or 3. And then the last one, I went like 6 months that last time whenever we moved over here before I relapsed again. So I was 6 months clean, which 6 months for me now wouldn't have been that long ago. And what I realized, I started to realize that every time that these relapses would come back around, like what led up to that in the days beforehand, and I started to think, and it always started with, I stopped going to the gym. That's how it always started. I would be in the gym 5, 6, 7 days a week, and then the next week, I would realize, it's like, I only worked out 3 days that week, and that would go on for a little bit, and next thing you know, I'm getting in the gym like once a week to lift weights, and then maybe I'll do like 2 cardio sessions on the side. And then the next thing you know, it's been 5 days, and I haven't broke a sweat, done shit. And then normally, not long after that, I find myself walking into the nearest gas station and buying a handful of shooters, because that's always how it started. Was I'd go into Casey's, and they had the shooters at the checkout right there. And that's how the last one started. I was checking out of Casey's, wasn't even gonna drink, and then they had the shooter sitting right there, and I just fucking started going. My mouth started fucking
just
watering.
One.
Dude, just one. Of course. I was like, two. Never one. Just 2 though, right?
Yeah.
So I get 2 of the shooters, and I end up going back and cramming both in the car, which then just releases a complete fucking warpath, and I'm headed straight back in about 5 minutes. So, I started to realize that trend of like sort of right before those things would start to happen, I would catch myself.
I'm good, thank you.
I would catch myself not being in the gym and basically doing the things that I had been doing to get me to where I was at.
Yeah.
So that's whenever it started, and that's kind of how, if we go a couple days now, which I'm, at the time, I say, I spoke about this with Briley, and I was like, look, if you see me start to slacken these things, and I'm not wanting to get in the gym, and I'm very unmotivated, and like, red flag, that should needs to be throwing some flags.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you realize, like, I can't put all of that onto her, and it just, like, expect you to bail me out every time I start doing bad.
Right.
At some point, I have to, like, recognize these patterns and say, okay, I'm in one of my patterns. How do we correct now instead of a week from now?
Yeah.
So it comes, it falls back on me, but being able to recognize those things, and then if you have a partner that you can communicate them to and put it on her radar a little bit so she can kind of be aware. So that's whenever I started to realize how important it was for me, and I still see that now. If I go like 2 days without being in the gym, before, if I went 2 or 3 days without being in the gym, I could start to get some crazy thoughts pretty quick. And now it's like 2 or 3 days in the gym. I don't get that extreme that fast. I'm just like, I start to get depressed, and I'm like feeling real down, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, I need to move some weight.
Yeah.
Like, I need to work out, like, because I'm like, I can be a very like intense. I have a lot of emotion. Like, I can be a very like intense emotionally, and along with the depression and anxiety, and so yeah, it's just about after I go those couple days without being in the gym, I start to get, it's like I have all this stuff inside going on all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop. Like in my head, it's just all the time. And at first I thought I had to find a way to like get rid of that. And now I realize like, no, that's just who I am. I just have to find how to like harness it.
Right.
And how to like use what I have. And and so if I go a couple days without being in the gym and without exerting myself physically, like mentally and inside, it's like I'm just a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And it's just like raising. And the only way to like get that out of me is to just go to the gym and physically release it. And I've found like there's probably other ways. I know people, they write and do it. I can't sit here and like write because after like 5 minutes I'm on my phone and bored.
Yeah.
Like, So there's certain things for everybody, but that's kind of where it started for me. Was I just started to realize like every time I start to fall into these slumps, like what's normally happening? Well, normally I'm falling out of the gym.
Yeah.
I'm not eating the food I need to be eating. I'm not getting sleep like I should be. I'm not all of these things. For each, I call it like it's my system or whatever. But for every person, your system is going to be different.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about finding, and you have to find something that you love to do, and something that you're not just doing it. Like I can't look at the gym as like I only do this because I will drink if I don't.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that is.
Riding on because I may have a day or two where I can't get in the gym.
Yeah.
And so what about those days? Like I can't just be like, fuck, well I didn't get in the gym, so like what am I gonna do now? It's a whole learning process,
Yeah.
and you learn it in pieces as you go, and what worked for you at this point in your recovery is probably not going to work for you 6 months from now.
Right.
And so yeah, I think that's where it kind of started to resonate with me, that I was like, okay, for me it's the gym, it's physical activity, which it makes sense. Like I've been an athlete my whole life.
Yeah.
It's what I'm used to. Like I lived out a lot of my years, playing sports, and some of the best moments of my life being an athlete. And so it kind of makes sense. It's like, when were some of the happier times of my life? And it's like, well, whenever I was being active and I was playing sports.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie of being around the guys, and like, in a lot of the shit you can get from being in the gym.
Yep.
You can get a lot of the same feelings. You don't get the, well, you compete, so you get a lot of those same feelings. But I don't compete in any of it, so I don't get to get that exact feeling. But it gives me what I need out of it. So I think it's just, you got to find whatever that is, that peace of mind. You can never pay too much for peace of mind, and like I get mine through physical activity and that kind of stuff. So, do you have you been one to battle with anxiety and depression?
Not, well, maybe anxiety. But it's not
like
really
everybody, I think.
Yeah, I think that's more or less so. Like I said, when it goes back to the drinking thing, it's like, fuck, what did I do last night?
Yeah. I've realized that I don't have near the anxiety I thought I had.
Yeah.
Once I stopped drinking.
Yeah.
I will say probably 90% of my anxiety came from alcohol.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was taking 3 different medications and doing whatever the fuck I could do just to get through one day.
Yeah.
Without wanting to just off myself, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm just an anxious person.
Right.
That's just how I am. And then I look back to whenever I was a kid, though, and like I was not.
Yeah.
Like I was like kind of a like arrogant little fucking kid, and like I had a kind of, like I just just a loudmouth kid. Like I like to have fun. I was outgoing and like had all the. And I was like, you weren't anxious then.
Yeah.
So like when did that start? And I was like, well, around high school. I was like, okay, what happened in high school? Well, like I had a relationship for a long time that probably stemmed from it for a little bit. Not always the healthiest relationship for someone that was only 16, 17. That's whenever I started drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's exactly where mine comes from as well.
Like, I was like in 8th grade whenever I started drinking.
Yeah.
Like, and that's whenever the anxiety started happening. And it's like, wow. Yeah. And I think it's not just alcohol. I think, a lot of people are anxious as a whole in this country, and it's not just people that have alcohol or drug addictions. You can get into the whole topics of our food and what we're eating.
All the chemicals and shit.
Sure, yeah, the chemicals. And you can get into all that. And another thing I've noticed, whenever I eat healthy, I feel really good.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, who would have thought, you
Yeah.
know? Whenever you don't indulge yourself, and again, I've always said, I will never sit here and, like, criticize anyone that drinks or does any of those things. Like, hats off to you. Like, I just can't.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I can't, and,
well, it's different, like you said, for everybody. Some people can drink, and they do it to have fun and whatever.
Yeah.
Others, like me and you, that can lead down a path of destruction.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I lost a lot of relationships, friendships, for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Do I regret it now? No, because I'm happy where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
But decisions made and everything else, man.
Yeah. The friendships is a tough one. whenever you stop drinking. You lose a lot of friendships. You lose a lot of relationships. I wouldn't say lose. I don't want to say lose because I don't have anybody that I feel like I've lost that I couldn't reach out with today and rekindle it. But I guess that's just part of life and learning that sometimes it's hard whenever the people that you've loved or you've been around the most, and now it's coming to a point where the same things that you and these group of people that you're so close with, you guys have done forever, and you're kind of coming to terms with the fact that that's really not a very healthy decision for you to be around these people,
right?
And to be around, and again, it's not a hate on them. It's just about what's best for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes what other people are doing, and it sucks. As much as it sucks, those are your friends. Those are it's like that moment of separation, of separating yourself.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you have to kind of portray it. You want everyone to realize look, it's not you guys.
Yeah.
It's no one's fault but my own.
Right.
That I have to. And that's probably been the hardest part of all of it. Friends that I spoke with forever, spoke with every day, I was hanging out with every other day, to not hearing from them for a year. And then it's trying to explain to them, it's look, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you just got to get out of that environment.
Yeah, it's just in order for me to succeed and get what I want out of this life, I can't keep being in these revolving doors of these patterns and behaviors. So that's probably been one of the hardest parts. Have you, since kind of having that realization, do you find yourself being more hesitant around hanging out with certain friends, or being around, even going around to certain parties or get-togethers or whatever? Do you find yourself having that sense of I don't really know if that's what's good for me now?
Yeah, I do, and sometimes I fall. I don't really go out and party and stuff, like I said.
Right.
But yeah, I'll get around some people, and I'm like, man, I shouldn't do this, and then I end up, going to the bar with them or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'll go and have one drink. 12 hours later, I'm fucking beyond wasted. Probably made an ass of myself, or did something stupid, or But recently, within the last few months, I've kind of, like I said, if I do drink, it's alone or my neighbor, drink with him or something, But
right.
For the most part, I try to keep myself away from the bar scene and things like that.
Has it been easier since you moved to Mount Vernon and getting out of?
Yeah, I mean, there for a while, dude. So I had a buddy living with me.
Oh, okay.
And we were it was bad.
Yeah.
On Franklin Street, fucking getting drunk, fighting, should have been arrested 1,000 times. I mean, and then, you get into that, and Franklin Street anymore is insane. I couldn't tell you how many times knives were pulled, or, dudes running
You always
around.
hear people getting shot up, gunshots going off.
Yeah. And we've been in that same exact situation.
Yeah.
But at that time, dude pulled a gun on me and a guy, and, alcohol's talking. We look at each other. He goes, "You think we can make it before he shoots us?" And I was like, I look up at the dude holding the gun. I'm like, I don't know, maybe. We talk back and forth.
He's got to get both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just thoughts like that,
shit that if you were sober, you would be like,
yeah.
You'd be like, all right, no, I'm not doing that.
I would have never been in the situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be here right now if it wasn't for that.
It's, it was stuff, like I said, stuff like that, man. And, but back to the keeping myself out of those situations now, for the most part, yes.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of sad, too. I'm sitting at home drinking 20-some tall boys by myself, being a bum,
Well,
get done at the gym, go home, do that, and I could tell, like when Avery comes over, mad. She's not going to tell me she's pissed.
Right.
Oh, dude, look on her face is like,
yeah.
Really? Again?
Yeah.
And, I mean, she knows some of the dumbass things I've done, and, like I said, that goes back to regret and shit, all kinds of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, but you can't live in the past, But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, for the most part, try to.
Yeah.
Try to stay alone.
Right.
May hang out with a couple guys.
Yeah. That's yeah, that was kind of some of our decision about moving over here and getting just out of that area.
Yeah.
And I mean, because once you've been somewhere for so long, and especially in such a small town like that, it's like, like nothing here is going to change.
Right.
Right. It's like, it's kind of like the idea of like, let's say, like, if you had a fucking, what am I trying to think? It's like planting a tree in a shady area, and then it doesn't grow, right? Because you don't water, it gets no sun, and it dies.
Yeah.
And then you just go back and you dig that plant up and you put another one in the same exact spot.
Yeah.
And then it dies, and then you think, well, fuck. And then you're like, well, I'm not gonna change where I put the tree at. I'm gonna, this time I'm gonna water it with fucking salt water instead of regular. But I'm not gonna move it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna try something a little different in the same exact spot it was in and hope that something else happens. And then like it doesn't happen, and you're like, oh fuck, okay, well, I'm gonna bury another tree in the same spot, and then this time, it's like, and that sounds bizarre to people. You're like, well, why would you do that?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
Like just being in Carmine.
Right.
It's like no, like as long as I am here, it's the same stuff, like,
Yep.
and it will be. And at some point, you have to realize, in order for me to grow, like I just gotta change environments.
Yeah.
Like I'm a fucking cactus, like trying to, grow in Washington right now. Like,
Yeah.
It's just like, this isn't where they grow.
Yeah.
This isn't where they prosper and do well.
Yeah.
We need to take this motherfucker to the desert and get it some sand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and so I take that like kind of view into life and like people.
Yeah.
And I don't see why we view ourselves any different than we would the way that we grow certain foods in certain areas of the world. And there are certain places that you can't have this because it won't grow because of the soil, so you have to do it in this part of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that can correlate a lot to who we are as humans and the way that we grow and the way that we prosper and the way that our perspective and the way that we view things. And that's why I always encourage people, like whenever you can, if you've never got a chance to travel, or like I was lucky enough with a job that I traveled all across the country and saw a lot of different places, so it opened up my eyes to a lot. And but it makes me feel bad for some of these people that have never got to move around, see other areas, and they're just stuck in these circles of like this small town mindset of this bubble life that we're in, and this is the only thing going on. And then you see people just in they just fall victim to these little areas of the world that suck them into these towns, and they get thrown into the revolving door of drugs and alcohol. And
that's Southern Illinois in general, man.
It's the whole Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's the Midwest.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else to do out here.
Yeah.
It's what makes it tough.
That's what I fall into. There's times where I'm like, man, I can't wait to go back to Wayne County. I'll go to Fairfield, stop at Main Street, train, love being back in Main Street.
Sure.
And I'll get done there, and I go to the Mexican restaurant up the road.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy of mine owns it.
Well,
guess what? Now I'm pounding 2
the
Big Mamas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting
tallest glass
plastered.
you got. Let's run it. Yeah.
And then guess what? That leads into an all-day ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, I'll make it to the gym, half-ass train.
Sure.
Same thing again. Drinking all day. It's like,
it's a
crazy.
reward system. Alcohol is like the reward for everything in that area.
Yeah.
I just got my haircut, a guy here in Newburgh, and he's actually from the area, and he lives over in Evansville now. Shout out Drew Hicks. Drew Hicks is a barber here in the Newburgh area. If y'all are needing a fresh cut, get a hold of him.
I think I might, man.
There you go. Yeah.
My locks are getting a little long.
Yeah. Shout out Drew. But yeah, we were just kind of talking about how like alcohol is just a reward system over there for everything. It's like you fucking make it through a day of work, and it's like everyone's like celebrates by drinking.
Yeah.
You get off work early. You've got a football game on Saturday afternoon or Friday night. Like everything is just a reward or a reason to drink.
Yep.
And like at some point it's like, damn, dude, I want to go be around like people where it's like that's not the focal point.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like I need to be around people where that's not the focal point.
Right.
Because I was the one that made it the focal point for so long, I was probably the degenerate of the group that encouraged most of it, really. But yeah, it's just at some point, it's like you got to change that environment.
Yeah.
And, some people just aren't meant to grow in certain areas.
Right.
And they won't. And I think, I've kind of been a testament to that. And you see with a lot of people that move out of the area, they come back 5 years later and they're like, they're beaming with joy and they've made this whole life. And it's, again, I mean, it's kind of hate, but like, you're just not going to get that in that area.
No.
And there's some people that can make it work, right?
Yeah.
There's some that I'm not saying there's not successful people that make it in these areas. Cause
right.
I know a lot of successful people in these small town areas. I guess it just depends on like what you want for yourself, and like what you see in your future.
Yep.
And I just didn't see myself in that same group of people. Physically, I couldn't. Like I would be dead. Like I wouldn't live that long if I was still. Yeah. If I was stayed there and I was in that cycle, like I wouldn't make it very long.
100%.
But, damn, man, well, I think we're about to go ahead and wrap this thing up.
All right, man.
Get out of here and hit the gym up.
Sounds
see
good.
What's up?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Scoob, it was fucking awesome to catch up, dude.
Yeah,
I'm glad I got to see you again, man.
100%.
Sutton Sanctuary Podcast, guys. Check it out. YouTube, Spotify. New episodes coming out weekly. We got more guests lined up. They're going to keep coming. Episodes are going to keep coming out. Keep spreading the word. Head on over. Check out Hydrate 1-2 IV Therapy on Facebook and Instagram. Get your IVs scheduled today. Get your hydration in check. Plus, my wife's pretty hot, so you get to hang out with her whenever she comes to do the IV. So, check her out. Let us know. Keep tuning in. Love you guys. See you at the next one.